Hello everybody. Welcome back to Elevated Conversations about Health and Healing. I'm Ellie Anderson, your host, here today with a very special guest, Vickie Swenson from Minnesota Mold. I'm so happy that you're here. I think mold is a topic and an awareness that actually can strike people with a lot of fear and paralysis if they are unsure about mold and maybe hear it from one of us at Elevated. We test people for we're muscle testing, but we also can run labs for mold and mycotoxins, urinary excretions of them, and it's an immediate, what feels like an immediate personal attack on clients of like, could you have mold in your home? No. And it's like, this is not personal. This is something that could be hugely impacting your health and healing. And in my clinical experience, and I say this often, it's very hard to heal in an environment, one, that made you sick, and two, if you're continuing to be hit with mold, and not only the mold, but the mycotoxins that the mold creates within your body, can make healing feel really hard and feel sometimes nearly impossible because of the damage that it can do to your cells. So before we get into all of that nitty gritty, I would love to know more about your health journey. What got you into this profession and what continues to drive your passion for it?
Well, you said that really well. And when people think they might have mold, like people have asked, do you have the word mold on your car because they're embarrassed that mold police would drive out to the neighborhood? I'm like, no, I don't, but people shouldn't be embarrassed. It's just water damage.
Yeah.
This has literally been going on since the Bible, Leviticus 14.
Love that.
There they write about mold on tents and cleaning stones and burning tents. So mold does really mean something got wet. It's that simple.
I love that. Way to take the drama out of it. Like,
yep.
It's been around for a long time.
And it's going to be around forever. Water
Amen.
has tried to damage buildings forever.
Yeah.
So I got into it. I had an awareness because one of our sons had asthma really bad, and mold was a major trigger.
Wow.
And how I figured out is my mother-in-law up in Crookston, bless her heart, they had so much mold in their basement. It was a small house. And I find that like a lot of older people think mold schmold. Oh, it's just a household nuisance.
Yeah.
But the third time we went there, my son Jimmy, his asthma acted up within 5 minutes of being there. So it got to the point where he couldn't even visit his grandma's house. It was really bad. And they were struggling too. Because in addition to what was going on in the basement, which clearly
is an issue.
He also had a big humidifier with mold on, and I loved it. I loved my in-laws. And I kept trying
It's
to say,
not
like,
personal.
we can help you with this.
Yeah.
So the third time we went there, his asthma got so bad he needed prednisone. I had him tested for allergies, and mold is a major allergy. And at that point, there were 4 family members that would trigger his asthma. My sister had spent some money to get mold out of her house, and she knew there was a little bit, and that's the first time he walked in and his lips were blue. So that brought awareness to me.
Yeah.
And then how I got into this, I was a computer programmer for 20 years. I have 4 kids. I was working in the middle of the night sometimes. And as I moved away from that, I went to a seminar on how to get hired in today's digital resume society. And a woman turned to me and said her friend was a mold inspector and she blah, blah, blah. I thought, there's such a thing and women do it. So I went to Google and Googled how to become a mold inspector. And that was 20 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
And I was taken over.
And the rest
my
is
life
history.
and my husband's life, yes.
Yes, because when you came and checked our building, your husband was with. So you guys are a dream team?
I did it alone for 14 years and he's been with me for 6.
Wow.
Which is great because I had a spinal cord surgery. I can't carry ladders anymore. So he's gotten really good with attic inspections, but he also has gotten good with a camera to look inside, horoscope camera to help us look inside.
He was up in the bathroom.
Yes.
He's probably like, yes, I get to play every day. This is it.
No, so it's been a really good team. And a lot of our jobs are far away, like Eau Claire, Wisconsin. We travel everywhere in Minnesota, so.
And I'm going to toot your horn a little bit because something you told me was amazing. So you are who the hospitals hire to make sure that.
The hospitals, I'm an expert witness for Hennepin County and legal aid. So
she's good. That's what we're saying.
I go to court a lot. A lot of my clients won't work with renters, and I have this, and there's a lot of mold in rentals.
Yeah.
Either they don't want to show up in court, or a lot of the testing is being done by remediation companies who know the landlord's not going to spend the money to hire them.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of referrals from my competitors for rental situations, and it's always amazing. I just had a woman in St. Paul text me the pictures over the weekend. One of the walls under the window was so soft that It was already kind of pushed in. I could just put my swab in the wall without making a hole.
No.
And another one who had a really musty odor. So that woman ripped all the walls off of her rental place. And then she realized, can I do this? But
it's such a woman way to do things.
You could see the mold. I mean, it was really bad. You don't know sometimes until you open these walls. And she was texting me pictures, and she just cut open all the walls in her rental.
Oh my goodness. I mean, that's not the way to do it.
No,
heads up.
I don't
You're gonna release so much into the air.
Her 2-year-old had been so sick, amazingly sick. And so she was just driven to do this. She just had to know how bad it
that
was.
Willpower of a mom.
Yes.
And I believe in that so fiercely. I think no one's gonna fight to get to the root of anything as much as a mother is. Truly, I just think that our intuition it cannot be outdone. And again, when it comes to mold, we think it's so personal, but just like you said, especially oftentimes for clients, I'll ask, like, could there be mold at home? Well, it's new. Okay, that's a rabbit hole I'll let you go down. But it's not personal, it's not a poor construction thing. This is literally like, if you have water and there's a leak, which water will follow the path of least resistance, it's gonna follow that leak. You might be fine, but it comes down to the biology within our bodies. If we have enough DAO enzyme, if we have excess of histamine, like this perfect storm of, you might be fine and your son is gonna be horrible, or you might be horrible and your husband is gonna be okay.
Exactly.
Everybody's body handles it so differently, which is also what can make it more mysterious and elusive. Like, well, why am I so unwell?
Yep.
And my husband, he sleeps okay. It's like, that's not the point. And even if their body can handle it better, it's still a toxin we don't want to be exposed to at the end of the day. So let's talk about some of where mold can really hide. Like you said, a lady, she was taking off her wall, taking off her drywall. What are some of the more sneaky, but for you as an inspector, like XYZ, these are the places I would say, this is where I can see it.
I'm gonna start with basement carpet, because basement carpet is the #1 source of mold in Minnesota. So the interesting thing, especially if you've had it down there in an older house, it's down there for a number of years. Because an older house doesn't have a vapor barrier under the cement slab, so moisture and radon come up.
Yeah.
And then if you don't control the humidity and keep it below 50%, those two moisture sources can grow a mold farm in old carpet.
Wow.
And the carpet itself is synthetic. They put brand new carpet in a humid chamber. The carpet's not mold food, it's the dust that accumulates. So the older the carpet, the higher the risk.
Okay, I'm gonna interrupt for 3 seconds because my husband, before joining me on all of my business ventures, his family own a flooring store, Grand Design in Maple Grove. Little plug, shameless plug. But Drew was their carpet man, and he has been since day one, since he started working on his own, ripping up carpet and installing carpet. He's like, carpet and carpet pad are why people are so sick. Whether it's urine or feces from pets or kids, whether it's water that they don't know about, whether it's mold or mycotoxins. He's like, I see everything and then some when I am ripping up carpet and replacing carpet. I don't want carpet, I don't want indoor pets, I don't want anything, because I can tell when I feel like trash immediately after ripping stuff up. And so we'll never have an indoor dog.
I think it was invented trap dust.
Yeah.
Because it adds some animal urine.
It's a nightmare.
And it's really interesting because a lot of the 50s and 60s ramblers have beautiful wood floors. And then there was a period everybody wanted wall-to-wall carpeting, and now everybody's getting rid of their carpeting and going back to hard surface flooring.
For a good reason. Are there other types of flooring that can lend itself more to mold, would you say?
Well, in the upper levels it doesn't matter. You know, let's say if you have laminate in your kitchen and your dishwasher springs a leak, they would have to take that up. Anytime you hear waterproof flooring, it also means water can get trapped under that flooring if it gets under there. But for basements, my favorite flooring is polished concrete or ceramic tile.
Okay. Polished concrete, you don't need to twist my arm for that. Seems like such a no-brainer. It's so pretty and it cleans so well. Okay, that is so interesting. So basement carpet, what's next?
Under sinks and plumbing accesses. I mean, anywhere that you have plumbing in your house, kitchen sinks, bathroom sinks, that's a really common place. And even if you see water stain here, it could have gone under, so that's where we use the borescope camera to see in areas that you can't see.
Tell us about the borescope camera, high level. What is that?
It's a really skinny camera that you can make a screwdriver size hole in a ceiling or a wall or go through plumbing accesses, and you can see what's inside of the walls or the ceiling.
Wow, so you kind of like snake it in.
Yes.
Okay, and then it gives you a better idea of
That
what's
works
going
great.
on there.
Just realized it doesn't work very good for finding white mold.
White
Because
mold.
We just have one that we're working on, and the camera made it look good, but we did an interwall air test, and there was some aspergillus. So of all the types of mold that can grow in your house, the white mold can't be seen with the camera, but we found it with an interwall air test, where we do an air test with a tube and go into the wall.
Aspergillus and penicillium, is that how you say it? Those
Yep.
are the ones that were really high in my home, in my like under basement crawl space. And so when we remediated, we didn't realize how much it was impacting our health until it was gone.
Interesting.
And how what we thought was like an old home odor, because it never smelled musty ever, but I'm like, oh, that was 100% the mold, because it just totally went away. So that's interesting. You can't catch that with the camera, but that one was.
They're wet, but aspergillus and penicillium, the spores look the same. So if you grow it on a petri dish, which homeowners do this, but professionals don't anymore. But aspergillus and penicillium, the spores all look the same until you put them on a petri dish, and there are 200 subspecies or more, and it can be white or green or dark, and it can grow from leaks and from humidity.
Wow.
So it's probably the most common mold.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, it seems when I look at people's mold report, just because they want me to look at it, I see that one a lot.
Yep.
Okay, what else? So we've got sinks, bathrooms.
Yep. Plumbing access panels, which every house had a plumbing access panels. Newer ones don't, but the older ones you can take off the panel and see what's going on under their shower and tub. Attics are really moldy. They can be. And most attic mold happens in the winter because it's warm air rising up in a house and hitting the cold sheathing. If that happens enough, you'll start to grow mold in the wood.
Okay.
And so it's a winter thing.
Yeah.
People think roof leaks. If a roof leaks, it's only gonna be that one little area where it leaks, but you can get your whole attic affected by mold just from warm air rising up there.
Wow.
And mostly it's found by home inspectors, because a lot of people don't look in their attic, and then
Yeah.
they're selling their house, they're like, oh my gosh, you have this moldy attic that people never realize. So people should really look in their attics on the coldest days of winter, and just take a ladder and a flashlight to see if you're getting frost up there, and if you are, then they're building scientists. Some of the causes of attic mold are bath fans that become disconnected, and that can happen during roofing. Like there's so much jarring that sometimes those vents, the duct gets
So it's
disconnected.
pulling
So
the.
now it's just releasing all that warm air in the attic.
What a literal nightmare.
It's super common. One woman, it made her furnace, the jarring of the roofing caused her furnace, which was venting through the roof, to disconnect. So she had the moisture going from September to March, and she knew because water started dripping all her walls. So that was
Like a horror film.
Yes. Yeah. So another thing I can contribute to that is people that have humidifiers on their furnace, because you're always gonna have warm air rising. It's called stack effect. You can look it up. Warm air rises, and if it's too humid, you can get this attic mold problem. You can also sometimes insulation is over the soffit vents. People have too many can lights. There are a lot of causes. Sometimes it's going through the light fixtures. So when we see attic mold and we don't know the exact cause, because we're mold inspectors, not moisture experts, so we rely on moisture experts for like, we don't know why this is wet, or we don't know how that warm air is getting up there. We have people that we refer that do blower door tests and figure out what you have to do to keep that get up there.
One thing I commonly hear people say, and I'm interested in what your thought is mold. So the mold needs a constant source of water in order to grow. So if it's just like a one-time, say your sub pump fails and you get the water and it fills your basement or whatever it is, and then they get that fixed, would you say as long as there's not a continuous source of moisture, which feels impossible, like even logically speaking, it feels like impossible to not have moisture in the air, but does that set you up for more mold in the future? If it's like a one-time occurrence, is it not an issue? Like, what's your takeaway from that?
It really depends. If your sump pump overflows, most people, okay, it's a good time to talk about sump pump insurance, because sometimes if your sump goes out, these drying companies come in, and if they get there soon enough, they can dry your basement to avoid mold. But you want to have that maximum coverage, because I just worked on Fork Run a year ago. He only had $5,000 coverage. It took like 15 to dry that basement. So always check your sump pump coverage or sewer backup to make sure that you have that coverage, because insurance will sometimes help. So if you dry it fast enough, some molds can grow in 24 to 48 hours. The
Wow.
ones that you hear, the toxic black molds, that is going to be Stachybotrys and Ketonium. They don't grow that fast. They need direct water. They can't grow from humidity, and it has to be wet for a while.
Mold is complex.
It is, but
It's not just like it's not just like a one size fits all for each type of mold. I did not realize that different types of mold have it makes
different moisture contents. Yeah,
it makes so much sense. Like I'm kind of thinking of it in my own mind now. Like different types of food poisoning have different incubation periods. They rapidly or not as rapidly result in the illness, or however that bacteria can multiply. So mold, of course, fungal elements, I'm sure it's the same, but I've literally never thought of it that way before.
Yeah, some can grow in 24 to 48 hours, some take longer.
Wow.
And mold can grow from leaks and humidity. And actually, when I sat down once to identify the multiple places that can grow in a house, actually more mold grows from humidity and condensation.
Wow.
So again, the attic mold is condensation. People that have unfinished basements with a walkout wall or a lookout wall, and they have fiberglass insulation with plastic over it, this is an unavoidable mold source. When people start getting spots, there's nothing wrong with your house. It's just going to happen until you put up sheetrock.
Wow. So what does the sheetrock do?
It absorbs some of the moisture. Because the first time I saw this is a guy was buying a house and it had that unfinished walk. It has to be the walls. Cement walls and lookout walls act differently in a basement. So these are like your walkout wall or your lookout wall. And they'll put the fiberglass insulation with plastic over it. The moisture in the winter gets through those staple holes. So a guy was buying a house and he pulled back the insulation. There was slush in the winter.
Oh.
So my house was the same age. I thought, well, do I have this? I get ice crystals back there. Because mine I'm letting go as an experiment to see how bad it's time to take care of it. So it's called molded fiberglass insulation and above grade walls. It's never the toxic mold because it's just growing from humidity. And sometimes the spores stay behind the plastic, sometimes they come into the room. The only way to know is test. But it's a pretty easy thing. You get rid of the insulation, sometimes it gets on the wood, you clean the wood, but the real way to avoid it is once you put up sheetrock. It won't happen any more than, we live in a climate that we heat and cool.
Yeah.
And there's air moving in and out of walls. The 100-year-old homes, people that have mold sensitivities or problems, the 100-year-old homes weren't insulated at all, so they have a lot of mold from condensation in the walls.
Oh, okay.
So the homes that are insulated, stop that to some degree, but you're always going to get some condensation because we heat and cool here.
Yeah.
And there's temperature differences meeting in our walls. And
yes.
I think that old house smell when you go into like a 50s or 60s rambler, which are my favorite age homes, but some of them probably have had more moisture in their insulation and get that old house smell.
So tell me about, you said your favorite age homes. Tell me about the difference between those older builds and newer builds and why people assume, well, it's a new home, I don't have mold. That's not always true, and new homes come with their own set of issues.
Formaldehyde, yes. And some of the symptoms from mold, one of my competitors told me this a long time ago and I've observed it now. Some of the symptoms from formaldehyde and chemicals are very similar to mold.
Wow. So you might think it might feel like mold and seem like mold, but it's actually formaldehyde. Yes. And they put formaldehyde on almost, I feel like it's like a protective spray on certain building materials, right?
Well, so it comes from the glue. So, first I'm going to talk about the three ages of homes as I say it, as I observe it. New homes are kind of glued together if they're all OSB plywood. OSB plywood is the plywood where you can see the chips of wood versus old-fashioned plywood. So there's so much of that in new homes that's where the formaldehyde's coming from. And then they don't even put real woodwork in some homes. It's MDF, which is sawdust and glue. And then they tighten them up. They do energy audits. If there's an air leak, they caulk it. So now it's a balloon and all of this is staying here. Some real estate agents know about it. Some builders give their clients formaldehyde warnings. The EPA is so concerned that they have a new building program called EPA Indoor Air Plus. They want you to choose less toxic building materials.
Oh my gosh.
So the new homes, you can still build them, there are some builders, when it's raining during framing, they just let the mold stay on the framing. So if you build a new house, go to EPA Indoor Air Plus to limit to your formaldehyde exposure, but go there every day and with your own moisture meter in your own eyes, and if you see the wood turning color, at that point they can sand it off. But you have to be your own inspector if you're building a house, because one of my clients was building and the rain came in and there was mold all over the subfloor, and I did 8 swabs and she got the builder to replace the subfloor.
Wow. So it sounds like they're using these building materials because they're probably cheaper.
Yes.
They sound cheaper. Everything's glued together.
But there is.
So if they request real building materials, how much more expensive is that going to be?
That I can't answer, but
oh yeah,
the
how
very high-end
yucky
builders, the very high-end builders don't use any
of the cheap stuff.
They use real plywood. And some of the new homes, also another air quality problem, is they're putting in flex duct for supply. So they're not even putting in real metal ducts in some of these houses. And flex duct is plastic and insulation and wire, and you can't clean those ducts. So I'm not trying to steer people away from new homes, but you have to be very intentional.
Tell me who are your top no-go builders in Minnesota?
Oh,
you won't do that?
It's the ones that build the most houses.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know who they are.
Because I talk about these 3 ages. The 100-year-old homes, the interesting thing about them, the framing wood is so strong, they're going to be there for 200 more years. You can't even get wood to build a house like that anymore. And it can even catch fire a little bit, and if it's only charred, they leave it.
Wow.
And it's not, there's a really good website called buildingscience.com, and Joe Libstrick is the first, he owns this website. And I saw an article that he wrote a while back, Mold Explosion, Why Now? Because that old wood also doesn't have a lot of sap in it, so it doesn't mold as easy.
Yeah.
The problem with the 100-year-old homes is there was no insulation. And so 110 years of 10 below zero, 70 inside, that air is meeting, dust is moving in there, especially the stucco homes. You can get a thin layer of dust in all of those exterior walls. And I know that because I've swabbed a few, I've seen them taken off. And not everybody is bothered, because many people live in 100-year-old homes without a problem. But if you have mold sensitivities, that could be hard.
Yeah.
And the new homes, we talk about the formaldehyde, the flammability, they also burn down in 15 minutes. So the sweet spot for a lot of people is the homes built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's real wood, it's insulated just right. You can still get mold in your basement, in your attic, under your sink, but you can take care of that.
Yeah, that's our home. 70s
Great.
split level.
They're great.
And yeah, I mostly just did the mold home analysis to make sure we weren't living any. I feel like, you know, when you're submerged in this life, you want to do whatever you can to protect yourself or your children. And so I'm like, let's just get it checked. And the basement levels were quite high. And at that time, none of our kids were in the basement. It was just when I would work out. And I noticed I would cough when I would work out and not any other time. So it was actually my husband. He's like, do you think it could be mold? I'm like, well, let's get the house checked. He's like, good idea. So we ended up doing that, and I don't regret it at all, but it's amazing. I'm like, it could have probably lingered for much longer because we didn't have any super huge red flags in our health.
Yeah.
Which can lead us into the next topic, which is the impact of mold on health. So I would love to know from your perspective, what do you typically see when people seek you out? What are they dealing with in their health life? Or is it not necessarily health?
Well, we get referrals from doctors, lawyers, real estate agents, mold companies, property managers, government. There's a whole list of people that hire mold inspectors.
Wow.
So the ones that come from doctors are sometimes a bigger challenge. So I'm only really trained to answer these questions. Do you have mold? What kind? How much? How did it get there? How will you get rid of it? And is it gone? But I talk about health every day.
Yeah.
And said for my son it was asthma. It's really interesting to me that the MDs recognize mold as an allergen, but only like respiratory, red eyes and runny nose. The functional doctors recognize it as many more symptoms, but don't seem to talk about the allergens, the mycotoxins. And I think, I'm not a doctor, but I think if your body inflames, because it's inflammation that's really happening.
Yes.
And some people can get it in their gut, their joints, their head, brain fog, all sorts of things. Like I really do believe it can
impact
it's an
the whole
allergen,
body.
and allergens can make different people inflamed. For me, and I haven't been tested, but I've been doing this long enough to know, like, if I'm around mold, my tongue will swell a little bit. I haven't figured out what kind it is, because when I'm near Stachybotrys, nothing happens to me.
The black mold,
Yeah.
the worst of the
And
worst.
I don't react to that.
Wow.
So it's really individual, like what kind of mold and how that person's immune system is reacting. But
Wow.
really, I think inflammation is the crux of most diseases. So, brain fog, joint pain, gut problems.
Yeah, you're so right. I would say in the world of me doing this for the last almost 9 years now, I have seen so many medical mysteries where it's mold or the mycotoxins that are creating the excessive amount of inflammation that prevent people from healing. And it's shocking to me because a lot of these people have gone even to like the Mayo Clinic to get answers for their health ailments. And they've been told miscellaneous things of like, well, you just have arthritis, we don't know where it came from. Well, it's rumination. One person they told it was just like in your head. And then when they would have a mold inspector come out, he's like, one of them specifically, he's like, I don't feel safe even leaving you here. The mold levels are so high, you have to do something now. So it was just, it's mind blowing to me that we are not looking at where we're living. But of course, that's why I do what I do, because it's lifestyle, it's your environment, it's things that are, you know, they become a part of who you are because you're in that environment so much. I just think it's so critical.
And back a long time ago, chiropractors were considered quacks.
So true.
Now they're part of mainstream medical.
Thank God.
So I think that this is what's going to happen to mold. That because a lot of doctors are going, a lot of MDs are learning about this.
Yeah.
The integrated doctors, they're doing both. So I think it's a matter of time. I don't know why it's taken since the Bible to figure this out.
Yeah.
But I do
We'll
feel
keep
like
asking those
because like
questions.
Europe has been. I had a client that lived in Europe, and they were testing her blood for mold 20 years ago. And also,
Wow.
their national health system in Europe, you can choose homeopath or Western medicine. They treat everything there. So our medicine, our medical system is just. I
Broken.
think they'll get there.
I hope so. I have a lot of hope. I have a lot of hope with where we're going. I feel like even being in this profession now for 8 years, when I first started, there was so much resistance to anything holistic because a lot of people felt like if they took a holistic route, you hate doctors. And it's like, no, we have to be collaborative. That could not be further from the truth. It's not a one size fits all or you have to take this path. It's we have to look at the full picture, and that includes being aware of your environment, and that includes being aware of holistic options. Then that also includes pharmaceutical options that when we need to pull them in, they'll actually work the way that they're supposed to. And I think that's even more critical is just making the body ready to receive these types of therapies and respond well to getting mold out of the home.
And I think that, you know, Western medicine is taught to treat symptoms. Functional is looking for the cause. That's how I understand
Amen.
it.
That's as simple and true as it can get. So tell me one of your favorite mold inspection, healing stories, case studies.
There's so many. And I do see, well, I'm gonna first talk about Andrea Hembroff, who lives near here. She admins a Facebook page called Minnesota Mold Illness. And she's on a bunch of podcasts. So she bought a house and I wish I'd known her there, and I still met her, I just communicate with her a lot. She bought a house with mold in the basement, mold in the attic, and she got dementia-like symptoms.
Wow.
She thought her kids were her brother or something. So she actually lived in a tent for a while while her house got remediated, but just a year ago, she was feeling pretty good. She actually healed on her own. Just a lot of people just getting the mold out, like this little 2-year-old out of that moldy apartment is just getting better on her own. So last summer, after she'd gotten the mold she knew about out, then she felt like something was going on in her bedroom. So her boss came and ran an air test, nothing showed up. Even did some inner wall air testing, nothing showed up. And then they ran a new test that just came out called there's a new mycotoxin air test called AMEA. And they can test for mycotoxins in the air.
Wow.
So they ran that and it showed mycotoxins in her air. But how did she find her mold? She had to take off her siding and found out her whole bedroom window was rotten. These photos are on Minnesota Mold Illness Facebook page from a year ago.
She had to take off her siding, so it was going through the side. If it's on the other side of the siding, through the insulation into her home.
Yeah, and this is the thing about, so mold contaminates the air multiple ways. When we take spore tests, spores are particles, they're seeds. You can get a false negative air test. This is why you can't just run an air test. A false negative air test is gonna come if the mold is too old, when they're dry for 20 years, too cold, for closure where it's frozen, too old, too cold, too wet, too sealed in the wall, or it's a kind of mold that doesn't release a lot of spores, like cladosporium, doesn't release until it's disturbed. So, but the other contaminants, the proteins, the mycotoxins, the whole slew of microbial VOCs, whatever you want to call the chemical release, that can come through sheetrock. Spores can't really come through sheetrock, and that's why when her boss did the air testing, nothing showed up because they're trapped, too sealed in the wall. So
It was the contaminants that were making her so sick
because it's
though.
not just spores, and that's the hard part is now there's a test to measure this other contaminant, but no mold test tells you where it is. People always say, well, my house tested for mold. It's like, yep, we test every day. We spend $40,000 a year in our lab. We are just sending tests all the time.
Yeah.
But no test tells you where it is. You have to find it first.
Wow.
And then you test.
So when it comes to where you look, you're looking in those common places, right?
Yep.
When you're going through with the scope, when you're going through with your kind of knowledge and skills, do you normally get a pretty good idea, or are you like, sometimes we're gonna start from ground zero?
Yeah. What do you mean by that? Yeah.
Like, sometimes are you like, I have no idea where to start?
But we always start in the utility room. We want to see, do you have an air exchanger? We always start near the furnace to see what's going on there.
Okay.
Because and then we go up from basement to attic.
Wow.
And we just know in these, rim joist insulation, insulation at the top of your wall in your unfinished basement, there's this sheetrock in a basement that's not painted can get little yellow spots. So we just know where to look.
What would you say the most common type of mold you see in Minnesota is?
Well, it said basement carpet is half, but attics, plumbing accesses, kitchen sinks.
Yep. All right. Oh my gosh, there's just so much to unpack with mold. If you had one key tip or takeaway for someone who's like, I don't know where to start, what would you tell them?
If they think they have mold or to prevent it.
If they think, let's do both. If you think you have mold and to prevent it.
Prevention is, well, for one thing, if you're in a newer house and you have an air exchanger, the new houses are so tight, they get energy rebates. So they'll do an energy audit. If there is an air leak, they caulk it. So the houses don't breathe. So they have air exchangers. And I used to say, so an air exchanger is just a mechanical ventilator. It's a box that hangs from chains next to your furnace. The whole purpose is to bring air in from outside, send it through your furnace, back to the air exchanger and back outside. So there's always 4 ducts on this box. I used to say 50% of the people, and I'm saying 80% of the people that have an air exchanger don't know that the hole on the outside of their house is the biggest factor. So you have to check this because an air exchanger is gonna suck air in. It's not a passive entry. It's sucking in air, putting it through your furnace and sending it out. These vents on the outside get clogged with dust. We've seen like an inch dust. And that burned the motor out. And the HVAC, I put in a new motor but didn't go outside to see is the air flowing. And so 80% of people that have air exchangers don't know to clean that vent. And it's super easy. You just take a brush. It's very visible. It's just nobody taught them.
Yeah.
And we had a client who went to Florida 2 winters ago for one winter. And he was in a townhouse, so his was 12 feet high, so the HOA was supposed to clean it. And they didn't, so when your air exchanger is sending air out, but it can't pull it in, it pulls it from wherever it can get air. So he was on slab, it pulled it under all the sill plates and all the windows. He came home to a $20,000 mold problem because of that little clogged hole. And we just saw one in Woodbury last week. He had his clogged, and they build different, he had an unfinished basement in part of it, so for a while, what to put on your basement walls, there's a lot of opinions. Right now, they're putting everything in. The only thing better about the new houses are the basements. Because it's poured concrete, everything's waterproofed and insulated on the outside. But he had the one where, for a while, they thought, let's put plastic on your cement and then fiberglass and another layer of plastic. They called that the diaper system. So he had that. So he had some mold in his insulation. He had the clogged air exchanger, and he closed his vents in the basement because the basement stays naturally cool. And sometimes energy auditors
suggest that.
Yeah. So he had the perfect storm. So what now? Mold is growing over everything. White, the 18,000 spores. And he's lived there 29 years. This is his first time, but probably because his air exchanger got clogged enough that when it was running, it was pulling all those spores out of the insulation.
Oh my
and the humidity.
gosh.
This has been a very humid summer, like more mold growing in basements for humidity. And the other thing is run a dehumidifier. Get little hygrometers, especially in a basement. I've never seen mold grow on a main level, although a fire department that we recently worked at, their air exchanger went out and they had mold growing on the furniture in the conference room.
No, thank you.
No. The humidity is just nuts this year.
Yeah.
But controlling your humidity. So especially in the basement, people get these little humidistats, hygrometers. It's a very small, cheap device to measure humidity. And I tell people put them in every room in the basement. and never let your humidity get above 50%.
So humidity never above 50.
Right.
Did you hear that? Drew Michael Anderson, my husband, who's in the flooring world, and he's like, let's keep it between 50 and 60 because then the flooring doesn't creak.
He's right, and 60 is where it's going to grow, but I just want people to be conservative, so he is right.
Oh, don't tell him that, Vickie.
But I just wanted to, you can keep it below 50.
I am
And some more people tell you to do that. There's competing objectives,
Like, what's the goal? To be
Yeah.
mold free or to have
Yes.
floors that don't squeak?
Yes.
Mold free. I
Yes.
sign me up for that one.
Yes.
Okay, that's really good to know. But so the sweet spot is 50 or below. You have a little wig room in the 50s, but like hard and fast, never above 60,
Correct.
like ever. Okay.
Yep.
That is helpful, and I feel like people like those numbers. And I think, honestly, like you're saying, a lot of people have no awareness of cleaning that air exchanger or even knowing that they
Yes.
have one.
Yep.
People don't have knowledge of like checking humidity in their homes. Truly, growing up, I don't think that was anything ever on my parents' radar. It was like, let's get what are they called?
Dehumidifier?
No,
Oh,
hydrometer.
It looks like it's pronounced hygrometer, humidistat. Everybody used to have these like little weather vanes, temperature, barometer, and humidity. People would have that in their house.
Yes.
But you really need them in your basement.
My husband has them on every floor. Again, flooring guy. So,
Yep.
but that is so interesting because I'm like, what ever made you think to check the humidity? It was a thing. It's a thing. It should be a thing.
And I
So
think
do it.
as we put, we have more mold in our houses now because people weren't putting carpet in their basements. There was potatoes down there.
Yeah.
And, back to the
There was
100-year-old
potatoes.
homes, if they got wet because they weren't insulated, they did dry out. So the leaks dried out faster, but the condensation happened. But now we have more bathrooms. We took out plaster, we put in sheetrock, we took lead and mercury out of the paint, put in soy oil. So we actually have more mold in our houses today than we used to because of the way we build and live.
So lead and mercury are a better option than the soy oil.
No, that has its, again, that
I
has
get
its
what
problem,
you're
but
saying.
it kept the mold away. The plaster walls with the lead paint didn't grow mold.
You're so right. There's such a more rigid chemical structure that there was no room for that airflow.
Yeah.
I've never thought of that. I have never taken that approach to it, but that makes so much sense. It's like, kind of pick your poison.
So we do have more mold. At the time the awareness is growing. The mold business is about 40 years old, and it's turned into a really big business in 40 years.
Yeah.
Because before then it was just considered a household nuisance. But it started with a woman named Melinda Ballard in Dripping Springs, Texas, who built a big home and had a lot of plumbing leaks, and her insurance company wouldn't help her, and she grew a bunch of stachybotrys, convinced the jury it affected her husband's brain, he couldn't work anymore, and got millions of dollars. And that's in Texas, where they're pretty rogue and they don't have a lot of regulation, but Texas has stricter mold laws. We don't have any mold laws in Minnesota.
I was gonna say, I've
We don't
never
have
even
anything
heard
here.
of mold laws.
Yeah, Texas has them, Florida has them. So Texas, I think you have to test every house. If you test a house, I think you have to report to the state, but my lab is in Florida. Someone take a mold test in Texas and send it to the Florida lab. The state of Texas goes around to say Texas certified labs.
Wow.
And so, and Florida's maybe even a little moldier than we are, so you have to have a license to inspect or a license to remediate. You can't do both. And part of the issue in Minnesota is a lot of the mold testing is being done by remediation companies.
Yes.
Which some I trust. My little website says some can have the ethics and skills to do it right. Some are gonna take advantage and
It's
make you
yucky.
have
It
bigger.
gets so expensive.
Yes. That's the other thing is that mold remediation, because I know on here you talked about bleach a little bit.
Yes.
Bleach does not work.
Mm-mm.
Bleach bleaches mold and makes it look like it's gone, but it evaporates too quickly. Those little roots stay there. And so you never want to kill mold. When people say, does this kill mold? Does ozone kill mold? You're not trying to kill it, you're always trying to remove it. There's a standard published by the Institute of Inspection, Restoration, and Cleaning Contractors that tells you how to remove it. So if it's on wood, you sand it off. You vacuum, sand, scrub, and seal. If it's on a porous surface, it really depends if it's growing on a surface that's porous or non-porous. So you get it out of the house, you run big HEPA air cleaners, and then use a HEPA vacuum to vacuum everything that stays behind and wipe it and vacuum it again. The process is pretty straightforward. There are some people doing other things like Dean Malstead of ProCare. He has a slightly different protocol. Michael Pinto from Wonder Makers I'm gonna finally buy his book because there are some people that go above and beyond. I don't know what their process is. But in a nutshell, get the mold out, clean your air, have to sanitize everything. So what we do, we're like one of the few companies that writes the protocol. Like, do you need a plastic wall? Where is your air scrubber gonna go? What are you gonna take out? What are you gonna clean? What are you gonna have to sanitize? And we do that so people can get bids from multiple remediation companies. They're all bidding to the same scope. Or we teach homeowners how to do it. Put on a mask, rent an air scrubber, and we've seen homeowners do really good work.
I believe that. Because they are dedicated to it, and if it's not going to make their health implode, I would probably like that level of control. Like if I knew exactly how to do it and what to do it in a way that would work, you know you're gonna get it done to the way that you want to.
Yep.
That is so
because
cool.
Some mold companies, we work with 10 really awesome mold companies, but some of these large companies, they send in 20-year-old kids that don't care, don't know. So a lot of the companies that we work with, the owner does the work, but we've had like 80-year-old women do this, and so 80% of the people are gonna hire it out. They're not handy, they want a professional, they live out of state, whatever, but 20% of the people are gonna do it themselves and save a lot of money.
Wow, that is so cool that you provide that for people. I feel like that's value as well, because it's like you're not making the money on it, so you're gonna tell them how to do it and do it right.
Yep.
You know,
and that's why you have an inspector. Inspector finds mold, tests it, tells you how to get rid of it, and returns to make sure it's gone. That's all we do. Sounds easy, right? Oh my gosh, it's pretty complicated.
In a dream world.
Yes.
I believe that. I believe it's complex because it's emotional for some people.
Yes.
It's overwhelmed. If it's affecting their health, they can tend to shut down or go into paralysis about making decisions.
Yep.
Like, this is a huge undertaking, whether I do it or pay someone to do it, and is it actually going to impact my health the way that I want it to? So I believe that 100%. Let's go through some other common mold myths. What are some things that you hear where you're like, no, that's not true?
Dead mold is dead. It's dead and dry. We can leave it there. But like, no, dead mold is still mold. It still has the allergens and toxins.
Dead mold is still mold. And bleach, like you had mentioned, I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, this is my mom's generation for just like, I'll just bleach it. It's like, I don't think that works. Of course it works. What about spraying mold? I have some people who will spray it, and then I've heard other people like, you never want to spray something you think is moldy. It releases more into the air.
That can happen. There are times, so if you have mold on your bathroom ceiling, and I always ask one big spot or a lot of little spots. If you know it's from humidity, you basically do clean it. You vacuum it. You can save that sheetrock. Whereas if it's wet, you have to cut it out.
So
there are
small little
sprays,
spots.
like Mold Armor works pretty good.
Okay.
But yeah. So the sprays that I'm more curious about is, because I talked about, you remove it, you have a vacuum, the fogging. So I am meeting someone this week who spent $5,300 having a house fogged, and then the humidity came. It's supposed to kill mold. Again, you can't kill mold, you gotta remove it. So these foggers, I'm not gonna name the company, but they're trying to get their money back. So they fogged the whole house for $5,000, and then it got really moldy. But
it didn't work.
It didn't work. But so the mold removal standard that I talk about, removing mold, I'm starting to think that some sort of fogging, it's not part of the standard, but some fogging after everything else is done. So some of the fogs are supposed to destroy the protein molecules, because the proteins are the allergens.
Yes.
So they're water soluble, so that's why you wipe them off. But if there's a lot of nooks and crannies, some of these sprays can destroy the protein molecules or get rid of the mycotoxins.
Okay.
Some of them drop the spores to the floor, so you wipe them off the floor. So because I'm not trained in fogging, I'm still learning about it. But there are some houses that I go to where I can tell the mold is gone, the spores are normal, but I'm still reacting. So I'm thinking that some of these enzymes that get rid of the mycotoxins, get rid of this stuff, the proteins, are beneficial, but I'm still learning about that myself because I wasn't trained, because it's not part of the standard yet.
And perhaps it needs to be applied in the right order of things, right?
We can't just rely on fogging.
Yeah.
These people that say, you don't need to take off that wall, or spray is gonna do it, I don't believe in that at all. Because especially if it's been wet, it's on the back side of the wall.
Yeah,
that's cut out the sheetrock. So these come spray and pray people.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's spraying by itself does not work, but spraying, fogging is a final step after everything else. I think there might be some benefit.
Okay,
Still
that
trying to
makes
figure out
sense.
which one is the best.
That makes so much sense. And it's good you're doing your due diligence before, like, hard and fast.
Yes.
This is the one I would recommend, this is the way to do it, because I think you're so right, it's complex and it might be different in every situation. I had a question and it floated out of my brain and I wanna get it back. I'll edit it out, so I make sure I get it.
Well, you think about it, what keeps me awake at night is hidden mold, like Andy Hembroth. No air test found that, she couldn't smell it. Finding all the mold inside walls, so that's why I put on that Facebook page. Sometimes you need 3 mold inspectors. I know we found mold that other inspectors have missed. We found mold that a mold dog missed. People might have found mold that we missed. It's not an easy job. So sometimes if you know, we're really good at it, but you never know what's in those walls. So you have to like smell the windowsills, smell your electrical outlets.
What are the top ways to, so if you, just like you're saying, the electrical outlets, the windowsills, do you feel like that's typically like, it's in the windowsill or it's stuck somewhere? Is it with the installation? Is it around the window? Is it in the sheetrock?
Yep, so there's a lot of window leaks, and that's what happened to this renter. When the sheetrock is soft, you can push it in, it's been leaking for a long time. So sometimes when you go up to the L-shaped corners and put your nose right up to the windows, if you smell something, that's an indication.
Best way to handle that, what would that be? Removing the sheetrock, replacing it?
Yep.
And then probably the wood, like sanding that down.
Yep, you get the sheetrock out. If it's gone on a long time, I've seen where the studs are rotten because it went on so long.
Wow.
But most houses have a plastic vapor barrier behind the sheetrock, so your sheetrock looks fine because it's protected by plastic, but under in the insulation and the framing, totally wet.
So if you, my last question for you, if you were building a new home from scratch, what building materials would you use? And you mentioned the polished concrete in the basement. Like, what would be the safest way to build a new home right now?
Well, the interesting thing is my house is 22 years old and my uncle built it. And so we have 2x6 studs. We have build right sheathing, which is fiberboard instead of OSB.
Okay.
So OSB is not, I think the fiberboard is a petroleum product and they say it doesn't have as much strength, but I think it breathes a little bit and it's pretty mold resistant. And then I think you can, I don't know the building code, but instead of Tyvek, we have tar paper. My uncle said, I'm gonna build this old school. So we have tar paper house wrap, not Tyvek.
Okay.
He didn't, seal every little thing. So our house, and we have
It's breathing.
solid oak woodwork. Like, don't put in the MDF.
No.
Try to really, because chemicals are as much of a problem when using houses as mold.
Yes, 100%.
So,
what about for insulation?
I'm not an expert. I have an unfounded mistrust of spray foam.
I love that.
Because I'm not an expert, but I see the problems. There was one where an outside fake rock wall was leaking into the basement, and they'd spray foamed the rim joist and the cement contiguous. The water was trapped in the rim joist, the mold was growing through the spray foam.
Wow.
And they said, we've never seen this, like I've only seen that once. And I had them chip off all the spray foam because it was trapping moisture and gonna rot that rim joist away.
I do think that's one thing with spray foam you often hear is like, it's airtight, nothing's gonna get
Which
in.
means it's gonna trap moisture. If it gets back there in your house, it's gonna rot away. I don't like it. And I also have a really lovely farmer out in Buffalo, and before I got there, she had her fieldstone spray foamed. And just earlier this summer, the spray foam guy sprayed over her well control. So she had her handyman chip off that spray foam. He got so sick for 3 days that I sent out an industrial hygienist that I know, and he slit the foam and could conclude that there were toxic chemicals coming out of there. So now she's in a lawsuit with the spray foam company.
Wow.
So I think
it's a little
I think I
eerie.
hear good things about mineral wool and not an insulation.
Yeah, I've actually been seeing that one more too.
That
So
sounds
somebody
good,
say that.
or just fiberglass, but
Good old fashioned.
I know, I'm not a spray foam expert, so sorry spray foam people, I'm sure there are good applications, but it's chemicals, it traps moisture, I just don't like it.
I think it's so interesting though, the kind of like you're saying, and when we built this building, there's all these new standards for like the airtight eco green push, and it's really hurting people. It's hurting the flow of air, literal air within the building. Things can't leave as easily, but we know that, so that's why there's the air exchange built in. And it's conflicting because it's actually, if you do have a water issue, it could make you sicker. But what I hear you saying is often what we talk to people, like if you would build a new building, just use real materials. Try to cut the chemicals.
Yes.
And make sure that you're choosing things as close to nature as you can, because that's the way I feel like God intended us to build. That's the way He intended us to eat. That's the way He intended us to live. And I think if we can do that, it's going to allow more health for us in the long run. So I really love that. Well, before we wrap up today, Vickie, what's one more thing you want everyone to know? Maybe not about your company, maybe about you, maybe about like your passion, your mission, this journey. What's a key takeaway you want to make sure people have?
Didn't think about that. I love what I do. Every day is different. Old buildings, it does not matter the age of the building. Old, new, how it's built. It's just keep your house dry. And if your basement floods or your kitchen floods, hire a drying company.
Do you have any top drying companies you would recommend?
Well, we work with 10 companies.
Are they on your website?
Nope, they're not. They should be. Oh, my website is so small.
I love it.
Yeah, it's so simple. I should have a lot more information, but just hire a drying company that's trained to the S500 standard.
Perfect.
They bring in big fans and dehumidifiers, and they can dry it before the mold grows. And I'm working on a really interesting one right now. A little house in St. Paul, it flooded last August. They started seeing mold in October. This is kind of a side point, but this is back to rental. These people thought they bought the house from a guy named Joe that didn't even own the house. He was a renter. And then Joe called in a flood, but the property manager said, well, wasn't getting back to him. So they finally went there and found out these poor people thought they bought the house from this guy.
People are like that in the world. It's sad.
This whole mold business I've been in 14,000 properties. So when you see how people live all different ways, it's been a lesson in humanity.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's really learned a lot about life and people and interesting things. So my clients in pest control, I learn about pest control.
Yeah, you get to see all walks of life.
About foreign adoption. I mean, I really love meeting the people, and that's what keeps me going, because it's a lot of the industrial hygienists for a long time. I'm not an industrial hygienist. I'm a certified mold inspector. Mold is what I do all day. And so industrial hygiene is a really cool field. All young people should consider that as a career, because they air test for all different things. And usually OSHA set a limit. But a lot of the industrial hygienists don't like to work in home. It's a lot different being with a homeowner in their dwelling than working in a factory or a hospital.
I believe that.
I am really well suited because I love people.
Yeah.
When I was in the hospital 2 years ago with my spinal cord surgery, I had a tumor in my spinal cord, and I was out of work. I didn't stop working, but I just did phone work.
Yeah.
And my husband said, he goes, well, I got done a lot faster when you weren't here, because I love talking to people. That's my favorite part.
Oh, it's a gift. The gift of gab is truly a gift. They don't just say it for no reason, but I think when you're passionate about something like you are, I remember the first time I talked to you when you were here and just talking to you about mold and the realities of mold and some of the common myths around like the new construction, and I just think it's value. Information and education is always value. And I feel like us, outside of just being a people person, you're so good at educating people in a very non-emotional way. Like, this just is what it is, and I appreciate that, because I think, again, it feels emotional, sometimes it feels personal, and if it's affecting someone's journey, it can create barriers, but you just like sweep on in and you're like, well, just is what it is, and we're gonna take care of it.
People down. There are fear mongers out there, and that's what makes me upset, is like some people put the fear in and we try to
remove it. It's not emotional, it's the reality, and we can help you find healing from it, and I think that's such a gift. So I really appreciate all that you do. I'm excited for a lot of people to find you. Not that you're not busy enough, but I'll put all of Vickie's information below from Minnesota Mold, and I appreciate her time and talents today. I'm sure I'll have to have her back on. I feel like there's so much more we can talk about, but I really appreciate your time today, Vickie, and I wish you all the best.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Yes. Oh, so good. I feel like there's so much more. We'll have to schedule round 2.
Yep, no.
But that was so great.
I'm on, Structured Tech is a home inspection company. I'm on 3 of their podcasts.
Oh, cool. I didn't know.